Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, with me, Gretta Chamberlain, and the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, which is one of the vehicles that supports the transmission of the Realm of Beings, is here to assist you in delving into your being by providing numerous topics and discussions for you to intake as you deepen your connection with your inner world. Shifting Impressions is here to assist you in strengthening yourself as you excavate to understand your true nature. Join us today and learn to shift your mindset, shift your thoughts, and shift your focus to recreate your life and produce a new you. Shifting Impressions starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Leigh, and I'm here with Gretta and Carol, and as usual, the Realm of Beings. And we're very pleased to be on Transformation Network, live Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. And of course, find us on all of your favorite streaming networks. These conversations will help you examine your life and your creation of reality to see what shows up there, how you can perhaps shift your impression and see things differently and create things differently. Thank you, listeners, for joining us today. If you're new to the podcast, every week, Carol, Gretta, and I discuss a quotation that Gretta has downloaded from the Realm of Beings. And then towards the end of the podcast, Gretta will channel the realm and they get to weigh in on their quotation. So before we get started this week, I believe Carol has some announcements regarding Gretta's live and in-person appearances where you can find her. Carol?
Thank you, Leigh. Happy New Year, everyone. I would like to remind everyone that Gretta, as well as the Realm of Beings, will be at the Conscious Life Expo at the LAX Hilton in February on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, where she will also do a workshop about creation of reality from pre-birth to birth. It would also be beneficial to those of you if you could stream on whatever your favorite streaming channel is, like YouTube. She had a wonderful interview with Alan Steinfeld, and this expo had been mentioned there. He's part of it also. So please get your tickets. They go out very quickly. And get a chance to meet Gretta in the realm in person. It's so exciting. Thank you. And
Carol,
now our
do you have the name? Do you have the name of that gentleman's podcast? Or Gretta, do you know the name of the podcast? People want to listen.
We can find it in two places. The name of his podcast is New Realities. If you go on YouTube, put in New Realities, that'll bring you up to his site. And then you have to look, he has different buttons. So you have to look under live because the interview was done live. Or you can go on our website, which is The Realm of Beings. You must put the word the there, and beings, put the S, therealmofbeings.com, and it's also embedded in our website as well, so you can find it. People have told me it's easier to find it through our website because it's right there. Otherwise, when you go on New Realities, you've got to scroll down a little bit once you go into live.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So if you want to hear that interview with Gretta, please find it on therealmofbeings.com. So ladies, this week we are going to be working with good and evil. And the quotation is, "Judgements create the concept of evil. They are based on your religious beliefs, cultural and familial frameworks. They are supported by your illusionary perceptions of this reality that you have created." So, I mean, this is like a big ball of wax we have to work with this week. There's this part of judgments and so much of, I think nearly in every tradition, right? There's some, concept of jinns or devils or these kind of, uh, these sort of characters. And I don't know, is it real because we believe that it's real? Do they exist because we believe in it? Where do we start off with this quotation today, ladies?
I think to start off just with the first word that's there, judgment. What is judgment? What are we doing when we judge people? Where's that really coming from? So I think if we start there and then work our way down toward reality that you have created, because this is definitely a long one. Yeah, I'd say judgments. Yeah.
I agree with that, Greta. That was the word that stuck out to me also. And I think just as human beings, regardless of our, ethnic, cultural, religious, whatever framework we've come from, it's very difficult not to pass judgment. It's almost an automatic reaction with most of us. And especially when talking about evil, we have to really remind ourselves, create, support, create. And it's very easy to say when you're dealing with high vibrational people, but when you're dealing with, for lack of a better term, low vibrational people, it's very hard to not look at them as being evil or pass judgment. People like Hitler, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, atrocities that we've experienced through our cultures. You have to remember they're still just supporting the reality someone else is creating. And that's hard for us to swallow sometimes. It's a hard pill.
Absolutely, because no, go ahead, Leigh. I want to hear what
no, I was just going to say it's interesting. I think this conversation has maybe come up in the past, 2 years of doing the podcast, but it's called that, it's an interesting perspective shift, right? Because the people, if you're like, let's say working, you have a tendency to look to, we're here and it's separation, right? That's like one of the major lessons that we're here to learn. And, we have to, if we are considering ourselves of a higher vibration and working in the light, we still can't deny that, even if you're in the light, you still cast a shadow, right? So as, high vibrational as we think we are, we still have things running in our unconscious that maybe we like to deny or, think aren't there. And, we have to face it and deal with it. But like the interesting perspective that I think I gained just from talking about this before on the podcast is that, we want to judge those, like, as Carol mentioned, that, a couple of names that we're all probably familiar with and we would look down upon and say, oh, they're doing so bad. But you have to remember that, some of the people, really thought Hitler was doing the right thing. They were like fully on, they were thinking he was good, not evil, right? So
absolutely,
it's a very fine line, right? Even to people that, there's a lot going on in the world politically, and people are saying that, like, oh, there's, these people in the governments are evil and this and that. However, the people that are in those roles, I'm sure in their minds, they think that they're doing the best thing for humanity or for society, right? I doubt that they would consider themselves, evil. So, I mean, it's just that, like, razor's edge, right? The people who, I think there is something like, black magic or whatever, people that work with these vibrations, I don't know. Do they think it's good? Most likely, I guess. So I don't know. It just proves to me time and time again that, he who cast the first stone kind of thing, should look at your arm when you're throwing it, sort of.
I think that also brings us back that judgment is a reflection of yourself anyway, because you're not going to be able to perceive any low vibrational feeling or adjective about a person unless you have that within yourself and recognize it. So that's important. Leigh, what you spoke about, it was interesting when you talked about black magic. What popped into my head, and giving my age away here, but Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, he was big into the occult. He bought Aleister Crowley's mansion. He assigned signals to all the band members, and he really believed their biggest hit, Stairway to Heaven, was because of black magic, which was ironic.
Seriously. I just
know.
recently heard someone going over the lyrics in that song, which I've heard, many, many times. And to me, what the lyrics I heard were, really quite uplifting,
Exactly.
like something about like light at the top of the stairway and all of that business. So again, if he was dabbling and he meant something else, my ears translated those words like fully differently.
Perception. It's all about perception.
Right.
Absolutely.
Please go ahead.
No, I was in agreement with all of you. I enjoyed listening to what both of you have said, and the things that you have said, and they're right on target, because the big thing is that we can only judge by way, like Carol said, just to reiterate it, we can only judge from where we are. I've had people, well, I remember one particular person. I very rarely create for people to talk about me in a negative light. But this one particular person, man, they were just, you can say, laying into me, you da-da-da and da-da-da and da-da-da. And so after they got finished, the only thing I could say to them was, thank you for telling me who you are. Because that was all that they were talking about. Because when you judge somebody, the only person you're talking about is yourself. Right. If you see this person of evil, then man, there's some evil in you, that you need to examine. That's a self-examination. So I would like to say to the audience, if you find yourself judging people, number one would be to stop and reflect on what are you saying about this other person? Because what you're saying about this other person is part of you. I have an example that I always use, and every year, and I never go back to find the particular culture that practices this. But in this culture, Western culture, if a father sleeps and has sexual intercourse with his daughter, that's considered evil. If when it's considered evil and people find out about it, probably the father's going to go to jail or something like that for abuse. However, there's a society, it was in one of the islands, I can't remember which one now, but one of the things that they practice is that the first person that a daughter sleeps with, like when she's been betrothed and she's going to get married, the person that she sleeps with first is her father.
I've heard that too, Gretta.
Yeah. It's the dad. So then you ask, well, why the father? Well, the father, in their belief system, they believe that they want the daughter to know what her responsibilities are in the sexual act. So it's like a training phase that the father shows her exactly what is going to happen and everything. So in their society, that is very acceptable. It's not even seen as evil. So that supports what you and Leigh are saying, Carol, and that is by perception, cultural framework, ethnicity, what's your religious background, if something is evil. I have another example, and I've used it on this podcast, but I'm going to say it again about Mr. and Mrs. Frank. I know they made their transition a long time ago, but they live next door to my great grandparents where I lived as a child. And at that time, no one had television. It was brand new. It was all small screen, black and white, and it was a big deal. So I remember that as a child, the other children, we were all talking about, do you know that Mr. and Mrs. Frank have a television? I said, really? Wow. I said, I wish they would let us come in and take a look at it. And everybody said, oh, yeah, we'd like to see that. Okay, so it took a week. A week later, we're all getting together again. And the other children said, do you know that the Franks gave away their television? And I said, they gave it away. And I'm thinking, shoot, I wish they had given it away to me, but they gave it away. I said, who did they give it away to? And they said other children knew because of their parents talking about it. And they said their pastor of their church came over to the house, saw the television, and told them that it was evil. And they needed to get rid of it. They did not want to keep evil in their house. So they gave the television to the pastor of their church, and they went without TV. They sure did.
Well,
that is a classic example of belief in evil.
Right. I mean, it's like super kind of ironic, right? That they wind up giving it to the one who said that it was bad,
Sounds very manipulative.
Right. And then, but however, kind of knowing what we know now about the kind of propaganda and the things that, are fed to us through this screen, I don't know, maybe that man wasn't so far off. Maybe he was onto something.
Well, that is funny. That is really a very good possibility. But, we have so many religious beliefs. We have the belief in, you're going to go to hell. I know as a child when I was growing up, and at that time my religious background was Roman Catholicism. We were taught, to believe in the devil. We were taught to believe in evil, and that if you did anything, if you went against the commandments and committed something against them, that is a possibility that you could have created a mortal sin, and that you would be, when you die, you're going to spend the rest of your life in hell with the devil. Well, see, that's a judgment call. That's a judgment call. Who's going to go to hell? If we go back to Mr. and Mrs. Frank, who's going to hell? Mr. and Mrs. Frank because they bought the TV, or the pastor because he told them it was evil and took the TV for his own usage? Who's going to go to hell? Who's the one that's evil now?
Right. So, that is like the epitome of the Roman Catholic Church. We'll just take that. Thanks. You don't need it.
And other religions believe in that too. The evil, you're going to go to hell. They believe in the concept of sin, and sin is a judgment call. Who sins?
Right. And sin? But this was sort of, was it, just perpetuated into the culture as a control mechanism, to have people who maybe weren't very educated, it's like this fear mongering campaign, right? If people are scared about something, but you have the antidote, they're more inclined to believe you, because fear is a very, I guess, it like collapses your sort of senses or your sensibility, right? And you go into this like survival mode where maybe you're not operating with some consciousness to really think things out. And I think it's, just one of the many tools of manipulation to add separation.
Now, I want to add to that manipulation because both you and Carol mentioned that word. I would like to say that nobody can manipulate you. That's absolutely impossible because nobody can do anything to you ever. And the reason being is because each one of us creates our own reality. So because of the Franks' belief system in evil, it was easy for the pastor to come and say, this is evil, and they would believe it. See, they believed in that judgment. He judged the TV. But see, the interesting thing, he said that the TV was evil. But I never heard that he said to the Franks, you are evil because you bought the evil thing. You see, it wasn't, he excluded them from that concept of evil and just put the television with it. You see, but what you said just now, Leigh, reeks of two things, and you've mentioned it before, both you and Carol: separation. And when you do with that separation, lack of unconditional love, that's what it supports. But then somebody's going to say, well, look at what Hitler did, killed all of those people. Look what's happening around the world. People are committing genocide from various groups here on this earth right now while we speak. But then we have to look at it from a creation of reality perspective, because you can't, see, this is the important thing, you can't do anything to anybody at all, ever. It's create, support, create. That's all it is. If somebody decides that they've decided that they're going to make their transition on January the 17th, and then after they make that decision, well, they've made that decision in the incarnation stage before we even get here. We decide how long we're going to stay. So, but then it comes up to January 17th, and what's the next thing the person has to deal with is to decide how they're going to make their transition. That's what that is. How? I'm leaving. I might be leaving. See, you think you're leaving with a whole group of people. And you, like, let's say they bombed something I've been into 9/11 for about months now, but let's look at 9/11. Look at all the people that made their transition through that event. Okay, so it looks like all those people died together, but not really. They went out one by one. They died individually. And when you die individually, you're only aware of yourself. You're not aware of anybody else that went with you. And you're not aware any longer that this person was my enemy. You don't even see that. You've just relieved yourself from that whole total thing. So that supports that we know it's not real. All this stuff is not real in the doggone first place. You can't kill anybody. You can't maim anybody. They got to create. You can't fire anybody. They have to create to be fired. You can't make somebody sick. They have to create to make themselves sick. It's not because you get diabetes. It's not because you ate too much sugar or drank too many Coca-Colas and all that kind of stuff. You created that. Anything personally that happens to us, we created. I don't care what it is. From having a finger scratch, cutting off your toe, whatever. Loving somebody and somebody loving you dearly, that's a creation of reality as well. So judgment helps support us in separation. because see, this is the thing, and I know we've got to go into break, but the underlining thing of all of us is that we are the force. So there is no way that the force is evil. So Hitler was not evil, but his personality that he decided to embrace, and I'm not even going to say it was evil, I'm just going to say it was a challenge. And certain people took on that challenge throughout.
Like, it's interesting that whenever, like, it came to me a couple of weeks ago when I like the analogy I use in my mind to explain that statement, because I'm sure, I know we have to go to break, but I'm sure that's like a really challenging one for people to swallow, right? Like, what do you mean? You know, someone killing a bunch of people, that's not evil. But I feel like what you just said is super interesting because it's like the overlay of the personality. And it's something like, you know, when we're here on this planet Earth, the sun is always shining down if it's daylight, I guess, in the region of this planet where we think we are located. And there's blue sky, mostly. I think most humans can agree on that. And, you know, but sometimes there's like clouds that obfuscate the sunshine and it rains. The sun didn't disappear. It's still there. We just can't see it. So like this is kind of like the overlay of our personality, right? Like,
yes,
everything is the force, but there's this personality overlay. And sometimes that personality does things that are different than what other personalities are. But underneath, like the force is still that's what they are. They are still the sun, so to speak.
Absolutely. We all are. And everything is the force. So our lessons here in this reality on this particular planet of Earth is for us to learn to love unconditionally. And I know I know it's time, and I think the realm of beings is going to possibly talk about that further. Unconditional love. Yeah, because then you get rid of blame, you get rid of judgment. There's no need to judge. And when you realize that when you're judging somebody, you're really talking about yourself, you're going to be slow to start judging other people.
Yes. Well, thank you, Greta, for sharing that. And listeners, we're going to take a short pause. And when we come back, the realm will weigh in on their quotation. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us at Conversations with the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. That would help. So we will hear from the Realm right now to see what they have to say about their quotation. So Realm, are you with us?
Yes, we're all here, sparkling and ready to roll.
Super. So today we've been talking about good and evil. Your quotation is, "Judgments create the concept of evil. They are based on your religious beliefs, cultural, and familial frameworks. They are supported by your illusionary perceptions of this reality that you have created." So what do you have to add to our conversation today?
Well, the first thing is to say that everybody who is listening to us basically are human beings. So you decided to become a human because you had many choices. There's so many choices of species that you could have decided to experience throughout the existence of the realities. So, but all of us decided, of course we didn't because we're not human, but you decided to be human. Now, when you decided to be human, there are certain things that come with that. And what that is how are humans going to be generally? What are the lessons that humans have? So every human that is, let's in this reality, we'll just discuss this reality today, has the same lessons in some way or another that are general lessons. One of the lessons is to love yourselves unconditionally. We say that every week. But when you love yourself unconditionally, you are set up to love others unconditionally as well. It's an automatic thing that comes in place with being human. I'm going to say this again. When you decided to become human, that was your experience. Then there are certain rules and regulations and possibilities that come with being human. If you had decided to be a hawthorn, which is another cognitive species here in your universe, you would have had a different way of operating. You would have had different lessons. So here in the human world, the human reality, you have certain lessons. One of them, again, is learn to love yourselves unconditionally. One way of knowing that you're loving yourself unconditionally is that you're going to lose the desire to entertain judging other people or judging situations. You don't need that anymore. That just kind of falls away once you say, oh, I love myself unconditionally, you see. So even that concept of evil just kind of falls away. See, those are illusions. Evil is an illusion. So coming in here as a human being, you opted to come into a world that was filled with illusions. That's the first thing. You've opted to take on eliminating the illusions from your life. That came with the territory. You've just forgotten that. So if you remember that, oh, I'm really loving myself unconditionally. Oh, I am the force. Oh, therefore, there is no separation between me and anything, you see. But part of being human was to come into this space and forget who you are. Why? You're putting on a play. You're putting on a drama. You're playing a game with yourself. That's what you're doing, you see. Some of us create the game to be fun and enjoyable all the way through. Some of us create for the game to be the worst thing going in our perception, which is judgment, you see. So that's part of being human. But it's not that you're supposed to stay there. That wasn't the deal. The deal was come here and overcome conditions, not to succumb to conditions. I'm going to say that again. It's to overcome the certain creations of reality that you have created just to give yourselves a run for your money, as you say in this cultural framework. So this is a game.
So
You're
realm,
playing a game with yourselves. Yes.
when you were speaking, the question came to me, so I don't know, have you heard about this great awakening that is taking place on Earth, supposedly with the humans? So if we greatly awaken, let's say, does that mean that there's a collective, like a bigger collective of us that are learning or transitioning through our lessons and getting to that self-love place, to help the earth and, everything else? Is that what that kind of great awakening means?
Well, you've just given your definition to the Great Awakening. So
Okay.
what we will say is that is your quote unquote perception, because we were going to ask, what do you mean by the Great Awakening? You see, if we ask somebody in South America, in Brazil, are they going to say that the Great Awakening is the same as you have defined it?
If they've been listening to the podcast and are into self-love, then yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let them be.
However,
let them listen to the podcast. Yes, yes, we want that. We want that. But it's to say that if they weren't, then they might even not even know about a Great Awakening.
Correct.
And see, and some people have defined the Great Awakening in the form of separation, which is an illusion that you've accepted to overcome. You see, because some people in that Great Awakening have put in place that if you are of a high vibration, if you're a high vibrational being, you are going to the fifth dimension. This is the Great Awakening. You are making it. Now, those other people that don't make that fifth dimension because they're not high enough to go to the fifth dimension, they're going to be the dregs of the earth. They're not going to be allowed to go to the fifth dimension. They're going to stay in the third dimension, while the rest of us who are high are going to the fifth dimension. Now, that in some cases is what people are thinking of as the Great Awakening. And that Great Awakening that they're talking about is low vibrational, and it's reeking of separation. When it reeks of separation, then judgment, it's not of high vibration. Anyway, the other thing to answer that question for you in regards to the Great Awakening is that one thing that humans forget is that they are the force. They are the force. They are everything that has created this existence. They are everything. You are the force. People fight that because they can't believe or fathom that they would be this great energy. We're this great energy. But that's because you've put on those things that horses put on called blinders so that you can't see it. You see, that's part of the game you're playing with yourself. You're creating all of these things to test yourself. You're not creating these things to pull yourself down. You just want to see, oh, I'm going to create this. Now, can I overcome this? Can I get over it? It's like people when they run, you have these races where people jump over hurdles, those sticks, and they run. And in each, they can run or they can get higher, when they run to hop over the thing. I forgot what vaulting. They put the vault low, so then everybody runs, you hop over. Then they bring the vault, that stick or pole up a little bit higher, and then everybody jumps over that. Then now the pole is getting higher. Some people make it over and some people don't, but they're still participating in it. So you're participating in this until you decide you don't want to participate in this reality anymore. So therefore you make your transition. Ha. But what happens? If you have not, what lessons you have not learned, you take with you. So you're going to create a new transitional portal, and you're going to put the people in it that you want to work with. You're going to, any challenges that you didn't finish learning, you're going to bring those challenges back. So that's why we suggest that you learn as much as you can while you're here, so you don't have to carry it with you. And judgment is a good one that you won't necessarily want to carry with you, because it's such a limiting concept. You cannot move into expansion of consciousness while you're still talking about people and judging them to be evil. You see, and you're judging people to be evil based on illusions to begin with. Death is an illusion. Dying is an illusion. Nothing dies because everything is a force. The force is not dying. It goes into infinity. That's why all of these universes go into infinity. This universe that we are sitting in right now, let's say it's universe 256. But there's a universe out there, and I'm not going to even say out there, because out there means there's separation. See, one of these podcasts will talk about how everything meshes together. That would be interesting. I think you started that when you dealt with time, you see. But there's a universe that's out there that's its number is 1,347,092, while we are 256. I'm using that. I'm not saying that we are number 256. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is that to let you know that there are many others of you, but not necessarily human. That was your decision to be human. That was your decision to accept the lessons of how do I work with myself and love myself unconditionally, that there's no separation. Can you, this war that's going on in Israel, can you imagine the Palestinians recognizing that they are one with the people of Israel, and that Israel recognizes that they are really one with the Palestinians? Guess what? You wouldn't have any war. But it's the belief in separation, that illusion that you're so stuck with,
Well, quick question. We've mentioned many times about learning lessons that we've chosen to learn in this reality that we're participating in. And if you don't learn the lessons you're supposed to learn, you will carry them over. How can we know that we've learned a lesson that we were meant to learn in this reality?
When you leave this reality, you will know.
So it's not
Now,
something.
while you're in this reality, you are in a state of illusion. When you move from this reality, or what some people say die, which is not real, when you move to the part where you start to reflect on what you have learned, what you have not learned, that's when you're going to know it. And then you're going to decide, okay, I'll hang with this again. This time I'm going to make it. This time I'm going to learn this lesson. Yeah, that's when you know it. Here, you don't, because it's filled. You just, every time you turn right, you turn left. You look up, you look down. You're looking at illusions to begin with.
But isn't, if we find that some patterns change, that we're learning lessons if we're conscious enough to see it?
Absolutely. That's why both of you have been talking about mental equivalencies on this podcast. Mental equivalencies let you know where your unconscious mind is. Because, see, you have conscious, you have unconscious. I know that Freud put in all this other stuff in between, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to, because that's humanoid constructs. So we're just talking about consciousness, what you're aware of, what you see, what you feel inside this space, this reality that you have created, you know. So once you have created that reality, it's hard to, the only way that you see that it's different is because you start doing things like what you call affirmations, your QDRs, your prayers, your meditations. There are various ways of assisting you in changing your paradigms. So you're going to know that you've changed a paradigm. Let's take migraine headaches. You're going to know a migraine headache represents something. It's like resistance. It's like resistance to change, or feeling that you're being driven. Those are some mental equivalencies to migraine headaches. Okay, so while you have the migraine headache, you can know, okay, I'm at the unconscious level, I'm feeling that I'm being driven. This might be occurring at work. It could be occurring within your family. It could be occurring anywhere. But it's showing you that. When you stop having the migraine headaches, you don't have them anymore, then you know you have learned the lesson.
Okay, that's a good tip. Realm, we are reaching the end of the podcast. So I would like to thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Greta. Thank you, Carol. And most importantly, thank you, listeners, for joining us. This is Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. Until we create each other again. Be well.
Once again, thanks for joining us at Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on TransformationTalkRadio.com. As you have explored today's creation of reality experience with the realm and me, Greta, each of you is being supported by us in further developing the understanding that you are not just an individual existing in linear time and space, but a multi-dimensional force of infinite possibilities who is connected to all. So begin to create the realities you want. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Shifting Impressions at TransformationTalkRadio.com. So long until we create each other again next Friday.